Okay, perfect. Alright. In this module, we are going to talk about, okay, one second. So I'm going to cover up some content related to the security aspects of the cloud databases. My focus will be purely on what are the security threats we do have on the cloud databases, and in addition to that, how we can overcome those things, the security challenges, and how we can overcome those things. Here, I'll start with the overview. When it comes to a cloud environment, there are multiple ways that you can keep the databases. So if you get the legacy methodology, you put up a virtual machine and you put up the whatever database version you all want to use. It can be SQL or it can be NoSQL. You can put that information and you can set it up from the scratch. So that feasibility is there, that practically that can be done. And the second thing, you can have a cloud managed service. So there we are talking about the what you call the databases that we do have as a cloud managed service. So here I have mentioned two things actually. When it comes to the security perspective, like uh, if you guys could remember the special topics, we were talking about the different offerings on the cloud accounts, on the cloud resources. So it starts from infrastructure as service, and then after that it went to the platform as service as well. So this platform offering that they are providing can be categorized in two ways. Like you set it up from the scratch, as I mentioned earlier. The second thing, here we are talking about the cloud managed services. So basically, they do manage the cloud service for you. Imagine you can set up a simple server and you can put the SQL. Imagine you put the version 8, right? The same thing can be achieved by your cloud managed service as well. So there, what you need to do is simply put that, select the whatever version you want to use, right? And you just select the version and you go ahead and do the deployment, right? And then what are the differences can have happen? So from the security perspective, any suggestions on what sort of challenges that we will be having or what sort of issues that we can have by doing that on the infrastructures services, on a standard virtual machine. So let's get deeper into the security aspects, right? And we'll discuss how a security threat can cause the issues on the database side and what we can do to prevent that. Let's uh, let's first evaluate the IaaS, the infrastructure as the services. Any suggestions? Again, this will be a two-way communication, right? So I expect at least on the chat, at least you put a message saying whether you answer the question or you can share your thoughts as well. So if you do not want to put a message on the public group, you can just DM me whatever queries do you have. So that flexibility is there. Please do use that to get this try to understand this as much as possible. So, okay, coming back to the topic, what sort of security challenges we can have when we set this up as the infrastructure as service?
When we set up a database in the virtual machine, we have to secure all the things. We have to think about the port secure thing and everything we have to set up on this stage.
Yeah, everything we have to set up as in like, can you get into a bit
Yeah.
more detail? Yeah.
Then in security groups, then who can access, you cannot access that also. We have to set up what port can access those also when we set up the VM.
Yeah. So, um, can you see my whiteboard? I hope
Not,
you are
not yet. Now,
now it's coming in, right? Okay. So what else? What are, I mean, like you mentioned, like we have to set this up from the scratch, right? Set the content from the scratch, right? Yeah. Okay. What are the other things? Would you think like, okay, so for the, I mean, I can see some people coming in newly. So I'll quickly go through the topic again. So here we are talking about yeah, what you call issues that can have when it comes to the, specifically I'm talking about the security issues, right? So what are the security concerns that we can have, right, by putting up a database in a single server, right? Then we'll move into the cloud managed services, but that's a different, I mean, that will be my next goal to complete. But to start the proceedings, let's talk about setting up this content on a virtual machine, right? What sort of security challenges that we do have. Okay, now imagine this is your database, right? This is your database, which is inside a virtual machine. I'll put this virtual machine as a Ubuntu one, right? So I'll put up a Ubuntu virtual machine in the cloud. Okay, I got a feedback saying you have to set that up from the scratch. Yeah, correct. You have to set that up from the scratch. But my question would be like, what are the security challenges can have? Let's think.
we have to hardening OS and so using software by MS SQL or whatever.
Okay, so we have to do the hardening, right? Right, setting that up from the scratch, hardening the OS, hardening the SQL side, right? Hardening SQL. What else?
Data security, encrypting in the REST
Yeah,
and
data security, I would say like even though you do it on PaaS, still the ownership
yeah,
of data
yeah,
will be yours, right?
yeah.
That case, I believe
Both have we have to
yeah,
consider that.
it will be a common thing. Yeah, correct. What are the specific things for this sort of an environment, right? What you are
Network security, VPC,
network security of, I mean, network security, yeah, what you're saying is correct. But when it comes to cloud environment, in front of these things, you anyways have the logical security group. That security group is there for
yeah,
you, right?
yes.
That will be same for both. Okay, I'll get that into one single place. So you said like there are two things, right? One will be network security, right? And the second thing would be, what's the other point that you mentioned regarding the
Data security, data
data
security.
data security, right?
In the that service we get the database, we not need to consider about network security, right?
But still, you have to provide the access, right? In that case, you have to worry.
Yeah,
So,
the just only provide access,
yeah,
but uh, the
so
sub, yeah,
well, still that has to be deployed within a subnet, right? That
yeah,
network is anyways there because whatever you provisioned, that has to be placed within a virtual private cloud. That's the logic behind. So
okay,
you can't have it without having a virtual private cloud environment. So if you are to set up a virtual private cloud environment, again, you are coming back to the round one. So you have to set that up, the database, I mean, the subnets and all the components. What else? Because I will spend a bit of time here because understanding this will be really important before we move forward. Because these are the major methodologies, I would say, like two major approaches, how we put the databases into the cloud. So
We,
having
yeah.
that, like having a proper understanding on what solution would be working for you is vital, critical.
And we have to think about VM security also, right?
Yeah, so if you are to get this up to the server, right, you just want to worry about the hardening the OS and OS security as well, right? I'll put hardening OS will be the remediation part of it, but on top of that, I'll take it as a separate point because that's something that we need to get into the detail, right? OS security also will be a key factor. What are the other things that we can have?
Data transfer speed and latency.
Um, I would say like this. So if you move into the cloud, right, data transfer speed and latency, I would say like it's like this. That can be issue for both, right? That can be issue for uh, a relational database, like or imagine a relational database that you are putting, right? So if you go ahead with the cloud managed service like relational database or Azure databases, right? Then it will be still that number will be, I mean, there's a number allocated for you. Like if you want to provision the capacity over there, there's a number allocated for you on the reserved instance on the serverless environments as well. So I believe there's a if you get uh, the priority, right? So if we all know is that issue can be occurred frequently, but still that can be happened on the serverless environment as well.
Access control.
Access control to what? To the operating.
VM. Yeah,
Should,
when the VM we have
yeah.
to decide HTTPS, HTTP, whatever, and
Um,
SSH key or password, how to access this.
yeah. So I would stick to the operating system access controlling because if you get the database access controlling, still you have to do that on the cloud as well, on the cloud managed services as well. So we do
Yeah.
have, I'll put this here, right? RBAC for deep, right? So these are common threads, I would say, common scenarios for both cloud and on-prem. And this is specifically for operating systems. So let's try to target this conversation onto the security perspective only, because I believe I covered some content on the special topics as well. So let's try to stick to only to the security aspects now, as much as we can. I don't mind you guys getting the topics into the table, which might not be directly involved into the security side. But still, let's try to drive this conversation on the security side so then you can get the most best out of this conversation, which we'll be having about 2 hours, 1.5 hours. Yeah. Um, what else?
The encryption, the data at rest and data in transit.
Yeah, that will be a security issue for both, actually. I will put it in here. Encryption. at rest and transit, right? So that will be a concern for both the scenarios. What else you think?
Data governance and compliance issues.
Data?
Governance and compliance issues.
Okay, I mean, that can be,
Data.
yeah, but it will again categorizing into, right? What else? Guys, I'm sorry, I'm in a sort of a production issue on my office as well. So, in case if something urgent, so then I just reply them on the mobile. So, apologies for that, and sorry for being late to join today. Like there was an issue that which we did not expect has happened, so had to got that. What else? Do you guys mind moving this next session into the weekend? What do you think? Like weekends are more flexible for me. Like even if you want to do it early morning, I don't mind. If you want to do it at the daytime, that's fine. Or late in the evening. I mean, like my weekends are fully allocated, like available, and you all can. I mean, like you all can suggest a suitable time for your. Or else I'll ask Dr. Kasun to check with y'all and put that into the weekend because these sort of unexpected things are happening, and I'm really, I mean, like worried that I have to reschedule the class for, I mean, we had to postpone the class by 1 hour time. So I'm apologies for that, and sorry for being late to join the call again. Right. Okay, coming back to the topic. What you all think about this?
So vendor lock-in scenarios, that means when we select a specific vendor, it will be hard to switch
Yeah.
to another alternative solutions.
Yeah. So vendor locking, this is for managed services. Okay. So I'm having another category. Right. So there can be three sets of issues, right? So this one specifically for managed services, right? This is a common use case. And I'll put this here. So it will be much more easier for you all to uh, check. So here we are talking about the managed services and the OS are here and the common use cases are separately mentioned. So what else?
When the cloud database access from on-premises, we have to consider the VPN or the direct connections to there.
Correct. Like you have to set this up in a more secured manner, right?
Yes, yes.
Correct, correct. But what will be the threat? I'm asking about the security. So from the security perspective, so it should be a methodology for connectivity, right? So that's a common issue for both. Even though you deploy it on the managed service, still on-prem should have access. You can route that traffic through the on-prem as well. So for that, I would say like connectivity for users in hybrid environment, or for the application, right? So, are the two things that can cause significant issues. What are the security issues that we need to worry about the managed services? What do you all think? Okay, now managed service is a service that is virtually available. I mean, like again, virtual machines are also virtually available, but they do have access to more granular level. But managed services, you do not need to have that level of access, but still there can be security issues. What can be the specific security issues that are having on the managed service resources? Any suggestions from your experience? Or okay, there's a point that has mentioned single point of failure. Yeah, single point of failure can be happen, but that's common issue because it can be on the on-prem, it can be happening on cloud. Unless you, I mean, sorry, it can be happen on the virtual machine. It can be happen on the cloud managed services as well. So either way, like that's possible.
Insecure APIs.
I'm sorry.
Insecure APIs.
I,
API.
API.
Insecure API. Yeah.
API. Okay. So insecure API access can be specifically comes into this side. So I would say like this: lack of permissions when setting up API access, right? So I'll name it as that way. What else we can have?
We cannot touch OS, then we can't hardening OS. We have to get the whatever they configured things, then that can be issues, right?
Yeah, but I believe rather that being an issue, I would say that's a benefit. You know why? Two
Yeah.
things actually. The OS management, OS level visibility is not there if you are using a cloud managed service
Yeah.
for that, right? So by doing that actually, right, what will happen is the slow, I mean, you'll have gone through risk management modules so far. In your other modules, have you gone through any topics related to risk management by any chance? Like how you transfer the risk, what are the different controls and all. So have you gone through somewhat like this, somewhat like that in your modules? If you do not have, you will be learning it. But this one is basically you are transferring the risk to a third party. So by without having the access to that, right? So you basically having the access to the OS level, but you don't have access to the OS level, but that OS level access is having for the cloud team, cloud provider, and they do manage it for you. Basically, they are having set of standards that they adhered into already, right? So I would say more secure rather you do it, right? Here the benefit is basically they are managing it for you. So they always have that standards in place and they have the engineering muscle to do that needful, right? So I would say I mean, we do not have access to what you call this operating system, but that's a benefit in this case because we are transferring the risk to them. Imagine if it goes into end of life, right? So what you will be doing on the on the virtual machine level, you have to first of all you have to get that data backed up separately, right? And then you have to get a new operating system, or you have to update the existing operating system, right? Or else you have to get that one get these backups. Uh, then you have to spin up a new operating system, get the SQL or NoSQL or whatever database engine you have that should be put into that, and then you have to put that data back to that. So there's a lot of steps that needed to be done. But the thing is, in that in that managed services environment, you will not be worrying about that because you do not have that risk at the moment. You just transfer that risk to a third party, a cloud provider. What else?
Data location and sovereignty issues. That means you don't know actually where your data resides. When we talking about security, you should and compliance, you should know where your data is actually resides. Some cloud providers save their data in multiple locations.
Yeah, but I would say those locations and those regions are publicly available. So then in that case, I do not see that as an issue because those regions are pre-announced and those are already informed to the customer as well.
Loss of control.
I did not get that. Come again.
Loss of control.
Loss of.
You have to yeah, entrusting third party
Okay.
for your data and applications.
Yeah, but I would say when you move the content into the cloud, that risk you have accepted anyways, right? That's something that you have already accepted, I would say.
Unexpected update, auto update can happen, right?
Those are rare cases, I would say. But
Yeah.
really rare. Nowadays, it's really hard to find out something like that unless you are using a cloud provider who is not matured enough on their business. Usually, they do not do that actually.
Yeah.
Incident and response forensics.
Incident and
Response forensics. That means investigating security incidents in cloud environment can be
yeah,
complex.
that will be a bit complex when it comes to imagine you hold some information, the cloud holds some information belong to a particular business that's been seized in the country. So if you want to get that information, you have to go through some legal processes and get that data to because the law applied on that country will be applicable for us as well. So here the thing is like the location, right? Location of the data storage will anyways be a concern if you are in the cloud. But I would say that will be an issue when it comes to the governance and investigation side of it. So that's I would say take it as a common use case where it will be falling into both these cases. If you get these buckets in both buckets, that is applicable. Yeah, customizations and legacy support. Legacy support mean I got a message from in the chat as well. I did not get that point. What will be the legacy support? What else? Is that all? I think there are a few more. So I'll explain it again. So basically, databases are within the operating system, or you will be having a cloud managed service in place. So those are the two options.
Cost.
Let's stick to cost will be a concern, but let's trying to stick to the security perspective of this. Yeah, there's a valid point coming in through the chat as well. So it's like this. So now imagine you have a legacy application, right? So legacy application support. Now you wanted to migrate a set of applications to the cloud. These are legacy applications. So legacy applications mean, from my definition, those are old applications, right? And those do not have much support. Like, okay, imagine like the databases are using older versions of SQL, like that. Limited ability to validate the patching process. I mean, like, what's that? Validation on the patching process mean? What do you think? Just think. I mean, I'll give you 5-10 more minutes. I mean, rather,
Misconfigurations.
sorry,
Misconfigurations can
misconfiguration.
lead to vulnerability.
Yeah, it can, anyways, will be there for both these cases. So I'll keep that separate. Yeah, patch management related to the patching or fail to patching. That will be an issue for OS related things because hardening, patching. So I'll put patching OS and and database engine as well.
Lack of visibility.
Lack of visibility will be coming here, but be specific. Like if you say lack of visibility in which terms?
In the cloud operations are not visible. All operations are not visible to uh, the users or
Yeah,
system
correct.
engineers.
Yeah, correct. But you accept that risk when you go into the cloud, right? It will
Yes.
be applicable for everywhere. Like so, I would say it's more it's more, I would say, like holistic approach. But I would keep it aside in this moment because when you move into the cloud, you anyways accept that risk. Accept that risk actually. By the way, you're all from first year, second semester, right?
Yes.
You all had the exams on the first semester. Yeah, you all had the exams for the first semester, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool, cool. Over privilege access by a provider, I would say like um, that has to be managed in the user privilege management actually, because that privilege management part should be handled separately. So I would not be considering that because anyways you all will be having a I mean like common set of access, and from on top of that will be something will be your responsibility. So I would say like there's no over privilege access provided by the provider itself. So what you have to do is you all have the common platform to build whatever you want, but you have to be careful how you handle it. What else? What else we have? Okay, so I'll give you 3 more minutes. So try to get at least 1 or 2 into the table. I mean, we have it. I'll say like, yeah, we can get a few more things into the table if you can.
IAM related issues, identity and access management.
Audit and login gaps inside the threads within the provider organization. Yeah, I mean, those sort of things. Audit and login gaps. What do you mean by those term called gaps? That's my concern. Okay, I'll give you guys about 1 more minute maximum. Okay, right. So we have, sorry, go ahead.
Container vulnerabilities.
Container vulnerability. If you put the database into a container, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that I would say again covered in the OS security. Because within the container also you will be having operating system, a lightweight operating system, right? So that vulnerability will be same. I would say like there will be low risk, but still the vulnerability will be there in the operating system level. So container again comes with the OS. So I stick to this operating security there. All right.
Poorly managed identity and access management related issues.
Yeah, IAM related issues, right? Okay. RBAC for database, yeah. I'll say, I'll keep this here. This will be a common issue for both. So, okay, coming into the topic. Now, you can clearly see who is the winner, right? Who will be having more security threads and who will be having less security threads when it comes to this context. But is that all for managed services? Anything else comes into your mind? Okay, now let's go into one by one. So let's start from common issues. The network security, why I have put this network security in here. So the reason for that is like this. Now imagine you put this database in a virtual private cloud environment, right? A virtual cloud environment, you will be putting this information, right? And here, what will be happening is, if you put what you call a database, right? A database again in a cloud managed service, still that will be placed within this virtual private cloud, right? It will be placed within this virtual private cloud as well. So what's the common issue here? They both will be accessible through the subnets. So here we can have a separate subnet, or here we can have separate subnet, or both of them can be in the same subnet as well. So that flexibility is there. So basically, that's why I said security issues, network security issues, like network level. Anyways, here you will be getting to access this database through either through SSH or by opening a separate port, right? What about this one? This guy will be only accessible through the protocol that is assigned to access that database. Like if it is a SQL, you could have connected through, if it is a PostgreSQL or normal MySQL or anything, through that designated port that is been allocated for that service, and the protocol is been there, right? But here the thing is, it is more vulnerable when it comes to the databases, because databases on the normal operating systems. The reason why I'm telling that, basically, if you get this database, right, the operating system level is accessible through this protocol, right? So here the thing would be, rather you're worrying about this much, is because what you call this OS will be accessible through a separate protocol other than the database. So the more you open, the more you get the risk. The attack surface is a bit different than this one. But when it comes to the network security, this guy will be more vulnerable than this one as well, right? And the thing is, even though you do not have access to this database, still you have the access to the operating system, right? So the thing would be, when it comes to this operating system, by gaining access to that, can create a tunnel for this database. Even though you secure your database 100%, right? 100%, right? This will be again accessible. This will be again accessible through the operating system. So you can be securing your database in multiple ways, like you put up RBAC, you put up port level access, you put everything in, but a backdoor can be opened through this SSH protocol, right? And get that access to here. And then what will happen is, it will automatically get the connectivity, give the connectivity to the database side as well. Because whatever you do here will be doing within the host, which means if you call the database as a user within this server, you will be calling him as a local user who is there, right? Got the point? So you are calling it as a local user within the database, within the server, within his environment. But what about this? What's the difference of this? Here the thing is, you will be having the access to that service level only. Because if you could remember the topic that we discussed on the special topics, right? And here you are only getting the access to the level of what you call, to the level of the database only. So what you have is, okay, I just wanted to have SQL engine. So I have SQL 8 in place, right? So SQL 8 is there in place already. But what will happen is you will be only accessible, you will be only accessing the data and the database which is on SQL 8 and nothing beyond that. You can't touch this OS level anyways, because they have created a separate virtualization layer on top of the database that, separate virtualization on the OS to call the database. That's how that's been configured already. Is it clear? You both have the network security issues, right? But the thing would be more risk you have within the OS related and the database you are setting up on the operating system. I hope that's clear for you. Any questions so far? So the silent means no questions.
Yes, sir, no questions.
Okay. So what about the data security now? The second topic. So the network security we are done. Data security. You guys have mentioned this, right? What do you mean by this data security?
Data rest and transit, data encryption.
That will be a subset of this, right? On the data security. But what do you mean by the data security itself? I do understand that encryption and transit or REST or whatever will be again a subset of the data security. But what do you mean by the data security?
Avoiding unauthorized access.
That will be again a part of it. So how you maintain the data within the database would be the consideration at this point for the data security. That will be the definition for this point, right? So here the thing would be multiple ways that we can do. You can put encryption, right? You can put hashing, right? You can do data classification, right? Classification of the data. What else can be there? And how you're going to manage the access levels, right? That's again the RBAC, encryption. So if you come here, this is RBAC, encryption, hashing, right? So those sort of things will be covered under the data security. That's a huge topic, I would say, when it comes to the databases, because databases are all about data, right? So having that data, in having that data, what we call secured, is vital when it comes to this sort of environment. But the concern would be how you can implement that, how you can set up a RBAC for a database. So before we go into that, I'll share my screen for a second. Okay, coming back here, I'll go here first of all. The data classification, right? Can you go through the slide by taking 2 minutes? You might be gone through data classification in different places. But I would say to keep it more simple, right? I'll keep it as confidential and non-confidential. So that's the what you call number one thing that I'm focusing on at the moment, right? So we keep it as confidential and non-confidential. So if you get into more granular level, I would divide it into four aspects: secret, protected, confidential, and public. So when it comes to these four terms, even though they look to you as telling you somewhat similar, but there's a difference. There's a huge difference when it comes to these aspects actually. So the thing would be how you set this up on the database level will be the really, really critical factor, because that can that will design your, I mean, that should be a design phase on your that should be within the design phase on your application. So if you get the software development life cycle, at the designing phase, you need to come into this level and this granular level and talk about the databases. Got the point? So that's something that we all have to look into when it comes to the data classification related concerns on the applications. So on the databases, I would say. Now, the thing would be, what are the information that you can classify? Okay, now take the UCC website for an example, right? So let me share my whiteboard, going back to the whiteboard again. Right. Now, the thing would be, I have shared you 4 categories, right? Okay, let's get confidential and non-confidential information, right? If you go back to the UCC, the Moodle portal, what we have, right? That's the common platform that we can talk about, because we all know what we have over there and we all can take it as an example to get the things cleared out much more easily. And it will be how you classify your data set, right? So I'll put it as confidential and non-confidential at this level, right? C and NC, right? Now the thing would be, by doing that, right, you might be having different environments when it comes to applications, right? It will be like you might be having developers might be having a dev environment, right? And then the next thing would be your code base will be promoted to a staging environment, right? And the next thing would be, after the staging environment, you might be pushing it to a pre-production environment, or you might be pushing it to a production environment, or uh, staging, a separate testing environment can be there in between staging and dev, like that. But the thing would be the data classification is really, really critical in that factor. The reason why the developers should not be having access to your production databases. That's number one. Number two, are they having access to that data, the customer data, to do the testing for themselves, for the dev testing? Should not be there, right? And the thing would be how you are going to do, how you are going to conduct that part, how you can evaluate that part of the database, right? How you are going to set that up is the critical factor here. Why it is critical? This will be something that you will be doing from the scratch, and you can't change it. I mean, the cost for a change will be a higher number because once you adhere into a security standard, if you have to advance it further, then it will be a cost again. Getting it down to a normal scenario like, okay, you have strict security on your dev environment, okay, you hash everything. The developers will be getting only hash database. But if you are okay to release some of the non-confidential data to the developers, right? I mean, getting it down to that level will not be a huge change because at the moment you're hashing, you're going a step beyond the normal scenario and you're doing something. You're trying to do something. But getting it back will not be a much change. But the thing would be if you all have open database at the moment, right? If you all have opened it for the developers and everyone, right? How we are going to get into the secure level, it will be challenging when it comes to a middle of the development team, a development life cycle. Why it is why it's a critical factor? Because simply if you try to hash the databases suddenly, number one, the development features will not be aligned to that, the developer setups or everything, and the performance impact. If you try to encrypt it, the encryption cost will be higher because every time a user is coming in, the data has to be encrypted and it has to be presented back to the users, to the developers. So that cost is there. Always, I mean, like when you have a normal database and when you have a encrypted database, there are two aspects. Number one, if you get into that encrypted database, the thing would be when it comes to that encryption, the resource utilization will be going up for the encryptions and all, right? So that part is something that are being there, right? And that will have additional cost as well because more resources being utilized to work on those things. Is it clear for you all? Is that clear, or do you all have any questions on up until this point? Okay, so now getting into the next one, RBAC. I'll take the same example. So now we do have a schema in place, right? Imagine a simple database is there, right? A set of databases. These things are on Imagine. These things are on cloud managed database component, dev, staging, and prod, right? Dev, staging, and prod, right? So the thing would be the okay. Here comes a developer, right? How how we are okay. I'll take the example like this. Let's take it in. Let's draw it here. So I'll make it much more easier for you all. So three components: dev, staging, and production. And here comes a developer, right? Dev, a QA, right? So these are all the three things are the databases, okay? Dev, QA, and a user who is using the application. And here we have sysadmin or a DevOps or a SRE guy, right? I'll put it as DevOps, right? Now, I'll let you guys to think who will be having, okay, there are a few access types that are available. Those access types are read, write, delete, right? You have to tell me, right? First think, right? You have to tell me which user is having which access for which database, right? Just think the model environment we all have, right? As the UCSC side, and let me know the answer for that. I mean, keep the answers within you so I can point out someone and I can ask them to provide the answer for this and this. I'll give you about 10 minutes maximum. So think about the permutations. What are the permutations that can be created to cater this requirement? Yeah, I'll give you guys about 10 minutes. Is it clear for you?
So can you explain one time?
Yeah, so we have dev, staging, and production databases now. So I'm going to explain the role-based access controlling, how we are going to handle the roles and everything. But before getting to that level, I want to understand your knowledge on this user management side. So we have a developer, we have a QA engineer, we have a user, we have a sysadmin or a DevOps guy. These are the privileges that we can provide: read, write, and delete access. Those are the really high-level access that we need to provide. So now you'll have to tell me what sort of access each of these individual will be having on these environments. Here you have three, here you have three, and here you have 4 users. For each user, you have to write down the combination which will be aligned to these databases. Is it clear for you?
Yes, sir, but that 3 users directly access to database or develop something on database or access via application.
I would say direct access. So let's keep that part aside so that access levels will be discussed separately. But now at this point, what I'm going to talk about is this the users directly accessing this database. Okay, I'll give you guys about 10 minutes. So then you all can go through it. Make sure you're ready an answer for this. All right. So shall we move into the conversation? Anyone wants to volunteer and tell me the answers? Any volunteers? No one? So you guys want more time?
Yeah. That 4 user types like system admin, developer, QA, and user, right?
Yeah, correct.
Environment, developer, staging, production.
Yeah.
System admin and DevOps have read, write, delete, detail, and all 3 environment.
All 3. And 3 out of 3, right?
Yeah.
So,
Developer has development environment, and they have all 3 that read, write, delete. Staging environment, they has only read and write. Production environment, no access they have.
for the developer, here you have 3 permissions, right? And here you have what for developer?
Only read and write. Staging area.
Okay. So this will have
2.
read and write
Production 0.
0. Okay.
0.
But,
If only need, they can only read logs only, that if some troubleshooting and only that.
yeah. Okay.
And QA user development environment, only read and write.
2. What
Read
about
and write or 0 sometime, maybe that
why we
developer.
need to write to the, I mean, why we need to have write access to the developer QA for dev environment?
Sometimes some troubleshooting in develop environment. Sometimes some problem troubleshooting. Then
Should we keep that on the staging side?
see, yeah, okay, that also can be. Then 0, then no need to access
Yeah,
QA to
I mean,
developer.
the thing would be I mean, you can development environment is for purposely for dev test.
Developer, yeah.
So I would recommend not to go ahead with this
Yeah.
approach. How do you give that to here? You
Then
can get all 3 access if you want.
yeah, then 0, then need to QA development and staging, read, write, delete.
Production?
Production, no access. QA, only they can read logs. Whatever, something troubleshooting or something happened on there.
They don't have.
Yeah.
And
Then user, no access to developer, and they need to read the access only staging.
why the user
User exception tests we are doing on the staging area, no?
No, you should not have access to anything.
Sorry?
You should not have access to anything because
In the staging area?
no, because this is a user, a regular user.
Yeah.
So a user who is using the application.
Yeah, then sometime we are UAT testing.
No, still user should be accessing only through a web application. So he will be coming here and he will be giving the access to him.
Okay. Okay, that's why I asked earlier this the web application database, so directly access something like that.
Yeah. So basically, again, direct access to the database. So he should not have direct access to the database. That's my point,
Okay.
right? So directly access, it should not be directly accessible for user anytime.
The read only, that
No,
also no
you
need.
should not be given because you know the reason.
Yeah.
If you give this a regular user, I mean, do you have access to the UCSC website?
Not regular. Yeah. Regular user cannot.
No,
Yeah.
it should. Yeah. User means like it can be categorized. Okay, this is a beta user, this is alpha user. There are more categorization aspects are there.
Yeah.
But not give access to database.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, is that somewhat similar to others also? Or do you have any other feedback on that? anything else, guys? Like you'll have any other feedback on that? Like, okay, it should be like somewhat like this, it should be like this. Oh, there can be, right? So any feedback from your cool. So coming back to the topic again. What about so I mean that's pretty much about that one, right? And does user have only read or other access as well for no, user should not have anything to the production or whatever databases. It's your product and the user is a different person who third party who will be using your access, using your website. That's they are just consumers. Consumers should not have access to this whatever databases. All right. And coming back to the topic. Now we talked about RBAC from the perspective of the from the database perspective, right? Hashing, encryption should be there, right? And what sort of data you can hash and what sort of data you can encrypt and what's the difference in between? I mean, encryption and hashing, you should have, it should be like bread and butter for you all, right? So what sort of data you can hash?
Like password type data we are
Yeah,
hashing.
master type data. Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
PII data encryption, right? Like this.
Where you can put it to encryption. Yeah, correct. All right. And data governance and compliance, again, that will be a separate topic that we might not be covering on this topic on this module, but data governance and compliance will be a separate module that I believe Dr. Buddy will be doing that. So I'm not going to touch into that part here, but again, that will be applicable for both the scenarios. Okay, now the thing would be connectivity for the users in a hybrid environment and for the applications. How we are going to maintain that access connectivity into the databases. So this is something a detailed discussion is required. So I'll keep this for next session. Single point of failure, again, it is happening for both of these guys. The way you implement it. So still you can have multiple servers here and you can load balance it, right? So put up a load balancer here and call these databases. Yeah, that way is possible. But there's one more way. I mean, still you have the high availability without single point of failure. And here also, by default, that multi-database architecture is there, read, write, and clustering architecture is there, but this can be configured as a single database server as well. So the failure rate is somewhat, I mean, there's a chance of failure as well. So that's pretty much how single point of failure can be a common issue for both of these scenario. But that's how it works on, I mean, even on a serverless environment, it can still get failed because you just set up a one database server on there. And here you can have high availability you can omit that single point of failure factor and you can have multiple databases if you are going to uh, have it in a load balancing manner. Probably a read and write will be getting used, and that sync will be there in between these things. That's how it works. The location of data storage, again, a critical factor for both, I would say. The reason why I'm telling that is that will be a vital factor, what is the location that they are going to keep the data. It will be definitely within, not within our country geographical location, actually. So it will be beyond the island. So again, the law will be applicable according to according to the place that you are keeping the data. Legacy application support. Okay, this is a factor that this will be a challenge, right? The reason is like if your application is an old application on the architectural level, you will not be having direct support from these databases. The thing would be here still, if you install it, it will be a vulnerability again. And the thing is on the virtual machine scenario, you can set that up. Yes, correct. But on SQL engine scenario, the serverless scenario, that's rarely available. So usually they do have a proper lifecycle management site type over there. So hence this will not be available for the legacy applications most of the time, right? Cool. So we are done with this part, right? We have to yet to discuss these two, right? Uh, I mean, this topic, we will be taking it separately on the next week. And apart from that, all the rest of the points that we have pointed out initially were discussed. Then the next thing would be how we are going to manage the operating systems. What are the issues that you will be having? Again, set this up from the scratch is a must. So a configuration level issue, how you, I mean, most of the time I have seen scenarios where you keep the default username and password as it is. This should not be happening, especially when it comes to the databases. Most of the time, if you put up you all might have heard the PHP right? The user interface that can manage the database through the web user UI. When you set that up, usually you keep the databases, the name of the database and the password of the database, the default ones. So it should be changed immediately as soon as you provision the database on the cloud server or the if you are putting it up on the serverless environment, they do prompt you to change that as soon as possible, as soon as you get that provision. While doing the provisioning part, they ask you to put a username because there the root level privileges will be available for the cloud provider actually. You just have a separate user that can have a limited number of privileges, right? So that is about that. And hardening the operating system, again, if you try to set this up from the scratch, again, that part is there. Like you have to be worried. If there's a worry, how you're going to harden this operating system is going to be the biggest concern, that biggest challenge that you will be setting up. And that will be comes with the operating system security as well. Because here, if you're going to go ahead with the database, whatever performance issue on the OS level will be directly impacting your database. But here it is not available. It is not a big issue, I would say, because that's been deployed under, again, a virtualization layer. So that's about these two. Access controlling on the OS. Here, what will happen is like access controlling. You have to manage here from the operating system as well on top of the database, right? So the database security part separately, you both have to handle in these two scenarios. But here, in addition to that, the operating system level support has to be given, and the access controlling has to be given, has to be done on the OS level. So that's again a burden if you are trying to go ahead with this. Not just OS patching, you have to patch the database engine as well. Again, I mean, it will be much more easier to patch an operating system than you patch a database. From the experience I'm telling, like that's the scenario that we have done. I mean, like we might be doing a lot of migrations, but still there are some InnoDBs. I forget the sequels, like so there are metadata tags and everything. So those will be impacting directly. So that's the issue. And the next thing, patching OS, again, we discussed, and the database engine. Yeah, so those things are going to be critical factors when it comes to these operating systems based databases, right? Cool. When it comes to managed services, right? We will be talking about vendor lock-in. Vendor lock-in as in like if you go into much more serverless features, like okay, they do have clustered solution, they do have high availability, they do have several cost reduction opportunities and everything. If you get into too much detail, you might be getting into a vendor lock situation, but I would say that's 50-50. If you are having a strategic plan to stay in a cloud provider for more than 3 to 4 years, I would say you go ahead and take that benefits. That's the beauty of cloud, and that's something that you have to work on. Lack of permissions when setting up the API access. This is again a critical factor, which I will be taking separately into consideration. So those two things connectivity for the users and for the applications, and the permissions. I would say those two are in same stream, but two different paths, subpaths, I would say. But we will be discussing it in the next week. Cool. I mean, would like to wind up the session for the day with that, and we will be meeting a day in the next week. Probably I'll let Dr. Kasun informed about the date. Currently it's scheduled for Wednesday. I'll check the feasibility of moving it to a weekend, but if not, we will be meeting on Wednesday. Do you all have any other questions? Cool. Then I mean, that's pretty much it from my end. We'll wind up for the day, and I'll see you guys in the next week. Thank you so much. Good night.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Good night.
Thank you, sir.